Marco D'Amico from RG Media. Follow him at MN D'Amico. Thanks for watching, being a part of the program. You can follow us at any point on youtube.com. Montreal Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki is prorated to have a 90-point season. I think it's fair to ask the question that when the planets and stars align, can the Canadiens captain hit 100 points, as he became the first center in almost 30 years to hit 82 points, as this market has been starved 29 years for a guy to hit 82 points, okay? So gives you an idea of the starvation, the walking through the Sahara, thirsty for offense. Finally, you're starting to get quenched here, okay? So
I think I'm going to mess with a lot of people when I say I
what?
was in kindergarten the last time the Canadiens had a point per game center.
I was 17 years old. I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
About to finish my baseball and get into Vanier and start broadcasting in 3 years' time. Amazing how much time has passed. God, I'm old. But I've been waiting for this. Fans have been waiting for Nick Suzuki, the player like Nick Suzuki's caliber. So let's talk about the Canadiens captain and the season he's having. Again, prorated for a 90-point campaign. I mean, he's past the point of scratching the surface, right? Like, how close are we to the full potential of a Nick Suzuki and what you're seeing point-wise? I mean, the leadership and those intangibles are there. Let's talk about the production and how close he is to hitting his prime ceiling as far as you're concerned.
I don't want to put pressure on a guy like Demidov here, but bringing in a guy like Demidov and bringing in a second-line center that could alleviate some of the pressure that he gets from the constant matchups, I think you could see consistent 90-point seasons in his future. And, I hate saying, maybe 100 just because, you never know what would happen and you don't want to jinx it. But he plays like a guy that if he had, like, for example, and I mean no disrespect to this, but if he had prime Ivan Demidov, the way he projects to be as a winger, instead of Juraj Slafkovsky this season, he's probably on pace for 100 points. Agreed. And that's no disrespect to Juraj Slafkovsky, but he's on pace for 50 points. And a guy like Demidov could be on pace for 80 points, 90 points on a regular basis for the rest of his career. So if you're playing with that and you have Cole Caulfield on the other side, there is a realistic world where he winds up on a normally consistent basis in between 90 and 100 points. I'm not saying he'll necessarily break the 100-point cap. If he does, congratulations and wow. But at the same time, I think that Nick Suzuki has proven that he could be a gamer in the playoffs. And quite frankly, just to be like utterly honest, as a Canadiens fan should in this case, I think that you all should value the fact that he was putting up ridiculous numbers in the playoffs as a rookie, or
100%.
As a rookie and then a sophomore.
100%.
On a team that was playing defensive hockey, he led them in scoring. So that's what I look to is playoff Nick Suzuki is another level.
Marco, he's got 23 playoff points in 32 playoff games. Right? Like,
and he did those.
He did it in Owen Sound. He is a beast, man. He's a beast, this guy.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily, he's a point per game center. If he keeps this up, it's no longer arguable. He'll be an established top 10 center in the league without question. I think he's in that conversation right now of being in the top 10, potentially just out of it, but he's right there. And so do I think a player like that could put up 90 points? Yes. Do I think a player like that can put up 100? That's an elite select category. Fans, I totally understand, probably in the comments right now saying, of course he can, Demidov, and they'll get better and you'll see. And, if he hits 100 points, absolutely fantastic. But if you have a number one center that's consistently hitting in the 90s, who cares at this point? Who cares? Haven't had a 95-point season since 95, 96. That would be otherworldly for the Canadiens.
So you see, ultimately for me, I do find myself on your side of the argument. 90 points, 92 points, 100 points. Like 9 players had 100 points last season, right? If he gets there, great, grand, wonderful. He doesn't, still great, grand, wonderful. Because
I would
what I hear
rather,
from you, I hear sustainability. That to me matters more than anything else.
I think Canadiens fans, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I would rather see Nick Suzuki win a Selke than get 100 points.
Yeah. Well,
I would
is
rather
100 point
see
is the outlier. Is it an outlier?
Well, to me, like, what would you prefer to call an elite season for Nick Suzuki? 90 points and a Selke or 100 points?
90 points in a Selke for sure. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's the player that he is in my eyes. Right. And so I think, you look at a team, you look at like the Florida Panthers with Sasha Barkov, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I'm glad. I wanted to bring him up to you. Yeah.
Sasha Barkov, up until I'd say last year, was probably the most underrated center in the NHL. Yeah. That mantle has been taken by Nick Suzuki.
Agreed.
In my honest opinion.
Agreed.
So when you look at a guy like Suzuki, I think very much like Barkov impacts both ends of the ice to such a degree. I mean, that penalty kill goal that he scored against the Philadelphia Flyers ended up being the game winner.
Wow,
like, how clutch is that?
Wow. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that was on Urson a little bit, and then the defense. Yeah. But it's that kind of play that he can impact and score against you in all four situations, even overtime. And so you have an all situations point per game center who is going to be consistently in the running for the Selke moving forward.
Yeah.
And this is where I stand on this. Okay.
Tell me.
When he was drafted, people mostly saw him as a second line center or a winger. And then as you went on and as he continued to play center in Owen Sound and then in Guelph, a lot of people started comparing him to a guy like Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah.
How spot on is that comp now? Right?
It looks better every day, Marco.
So
looks better every day. I even remember when Bergevin signed, when Bergevin gave him the contract, 7.85, you're like, man, they're paying him like a number one center when he's not a number one center. Let's be honest, right? And like they're
top 10 worst contracts in hockey, eh?
Oh, where'd that come from? Anyways, not here to bring up old drama. Didn't come from Marco, didn't come from me. So it's all good. But seriously, I mean, that contract is Marc Bergevin, does he not look better as the games go by here a little bit?
No, because he signed Jeff Petrie to the contract that he signed him to. Yeah. He signed, unfortunately, and again, absolute warrior, but it hasn't hurt the Canadiens because they haven't needed the money because they decided to do a rebuild. But Gallagher's contract, Anderson's contract to a degree, he was just handing out money like it was candy during the pandemic.
And no move, no trades.
Yeah, so Marc Bergevin was the reason they needed to do a rebuild because he just kept missing on his draft picks and is just, unfortunately unable to foresee the changing of the guard when it was necessary. But other than that,
that's fair.
Signing Nick Suzuki was his great parting gift to the organization. So give him credit for that, absolutely. But what I will say, and what I think needs to be said when it comes to Suzuki, is when the chips are on the table, let's call a spade a spade. The Canadiens have been basically playing playoff hockey for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Agreed. And Nick Suzuki has like 30 points in that range in like 15 games. That's all you need to know. When the playoffs will start, that's the kind of player you're going to be looking at. So if he scores 90 points in a season, but he's a point per game center in the playoffs, chef's kiss. I don't think Canadiens fans have anything to worry about.
Marco, the home stretch and the playoffs are right around the corner. I can't believe it, but man, oh man, what a ride it's been. And looking forward to seeing what happens this week and getting us that much closer to game number 82 and the start of the playoffs. See you in Washington for game 1. Marco, thanks as always for another great week. We'll catch up again real soon.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Shaun.